We'll be very aggressive.
They continue to work and grow and implement their program and are setting the foundation for what they want to get accomplished here over the next couple of seasons.
I think one of the most intriguing teams this offseason is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have the capital to do whatever they want. They're competing and building a culture. I believe in team. I would say that. If you want to strive to do something great as a group, you got to work together. You have a plan, you stay true to the plan, you execute the plan. The Dolphins, this is how you turn around a franchise. Like this. We're trying to build a team that's going to win right now, and we'll be very aggressive. We're looking for guys who are tough, who are smart, who are competitive, love to play.
They have landed some big fish with the Miami Dolphins. You're trying to build something there.
Play together, man. Win on me, win on me. 1, 2, 3, win.
If you can get a group of young men to band together, to believe in one another, to practice and prepare at a high level, then you'll win ball games.
Bro, if that don't want to make you kill the closest Pats, Bills, or Jets fans living near you, I don't know what will. But what's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here with another one. As always, I'm joined by the Jason Taylor to my Zach Thomas, EMdolphinfan. What's good, homie?
Man, y'all see the goosebumps? Can y'all see those? Dolphin Fin Nation, can y'all see the goosebumps? God, pardon my language, but god damn that video. I tell you, man. Wow. Let's get it, baby. Let's get it. I'm sorry. Yeah, what's good, homie? How are you, man?
Yeah, bro. That got me mad hype. Sorry about the start to that. I actually had my mic muted. That's why you guys weren't hearing it. But yeah, fire, bro. Can't wait. And the one person listening for that, and that's because they don't have any highlights of him in the NFL yet. Wait till 2 is in that highlight package, brother. Oh boy. Oh boy, bro.
Let's get it, baby. Let's get it.
Bro, that got me mad. Yo, I've watched that thing like 50 times already, and I get hyped every time. I'm going to watch that every day till the season starts, bro. Like, crazy. If people are asking what video, some people, I guess, missed it. Yo, we're going to show it again, bro. One more time for y'all. We're going to show it again one more time for y'all. I got to mute. Bring the brand down. All right. Should I do it one more time? Y'all want to see it one more time, huh? All right. Because I guess some of y'all missed that. So, yo, EM, your mic just is muted right now because I'm going to mute my own. I'm just telling people what's good right now. So, guys, if you didn't see the hype trailer that came out today, I'm going to play it for y'all one more time because it's just that fire. It's probably the best hype video in the nation right now, bro. This thing is next level, people. So, share the screen. You can go to the Dolphins Twitter, and that is where you will see it. So I'll play it for you guys one more time. It's about 1 minute 46 seconds, guys.
They continue to work and grow and implement their program and are setting the foundation for what they want to get accomplished here over the next couple of seasons.
I think one of the most intriguing teams this offseason is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have the capital to do whatever they want. They're competing and building a culture. I believe in team. I would say that. If you want to strive to do something great as a group, you got to work together.
You have a plan, you stay true to the plan, you execute the plan. The Dolphins, this is how you turn around a franchise, like this.
We're trying to build a team that's going to win right now, and we'll be very aggressive.
Welcome to the field, your Miami Dolphins.
We're looking for guys who are tough, who are smart, who are competitive, love to play.
They have landed some big fish. What the Miami Dolphins did. You're trying to build something there.
That's fine to play together, man. Win on three, win on me. 1, 2, 3, win.
If you can get a group of young men to band together, to believe in one another, to practice and prepare at a high level, then you'll win ball games.
And Nico, all I gotta say to you, bro, if that doesn't make you want to run through a wall, I don't know what will, because
Bro, I'm gonna start playing that every morning.
every morning I'm gonna wake up with
Start my day off with that video. That's
Bro.
real talk. I'm
Bro.
dead serious.
I might start off every episode till the season starts with that video just to make a statement, bro, because that is amazing, bro. Yo, what up to everyone who's rolling in? I see Vix here. I see Powerhouse. I see Dolphin. I see FM. I'm scrolling up. I see Jim27, Nico, obviously, Rhino, obviously. What's good? DraftKings, what's good?
Powerhouse. I see you, Powerhouse.
Tranquilize, what's
Larry L.
good, homie? Appreciate you showing that love on our comparative series today in the comments, brother. Carlos, El Rizi, Ficken.
Larry L. What's good?
Who else do we got going on here? Rip Tupac, what's good, homie? Kieran, what's good? Infinite Trauma, what's good? Yo, what's good, everyone? So, Clemente, what's good?
Jeezy.
Okay, yeah.
I see you.
Powerhouse says you should reason, and you know what? We are gonna open up every episode with that video,
Yeah.
whether it's
Yeah.
after we do our intro, me and him, or whether we just start off the video with that intro. We're gonna implement that into our intros until that season starts, because that's
It's never
hype.
gonna get old. It's never gonna get old, bro.
No. I'm telling you,
Never gonna
Brian
get old.
Flores is just like,
He's an intense dude, bro.
bro.
I mean,
Let's
you just look at him.
without pulling up an article, without pulling up Colin Coward, let's just segue into it, and we'll replace something else on the list with it.
Cool.
The fact that he already made a guy like Colin Coward the Herd's top 10 list of head coaches in the NFL. He finished 7th on Colin Coward's top 10 list, bro. That already goes off to show you the respect that this guy's already started to gain league-wide in only 1 year and with minimal amount of weapons. Now we look around, one thing me and you learned from that comparative series, aside from the Bills, you look at the skill positions. Yeah, it's all got to come together still on the field, but on paper, when you stack us up, you could make a legitimate argument that we're not only the second best team in the AFC East, but we could already be vying for that first spot with the Bills. It just all comes down to how it translates on the field. So, I mean, and obviously this pandemic with all the new faces isn't doing us very many favors, but man, I think, there are a few people starting to wake up, and you've seen it in the media. They're starting to not sleep on it. There's certain individuals, and it kind of started with that Tua pick. They let free agency go by the wayside, and then the Tua pick was like, you know what? These guys aren't doing old Dolphin things. They're not passing on the kid at 5. You know what? Maybe then they started looking more into the free agent picks, and they're like, you know what? And then that's when you started hearing more about schematics coming out and how these guys were going to fit, et cetera, bro. I think people are not sleeping on. There's certain people that aren't sleeping on us and look at us as sleepers now in the AFC, especially with the extra playoff spots, EM.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm 200% in agreement. It's definitely cool to see finally, after I would say the last, at least 10 years, bro, how we got no respect in the media. And we shouldn't have, because we didn't do enough. We didn't put enough talent. We didn't have the right coaches, et cetera, to really establish, to put a consistent winner out on the field. So we didn't, to be honest with you, it was disappointing to hear a lot of criticism in the past, but in hindsight, and if you want to be 100 about it, we deserve every bit of that criticism. But it's just refreshing to see now that everybody seems to recognize that we have the perfect infrastructure in place in the front office, and that'll translate hopefully to on the field. They still have to go out, like you alluded to earlier, like a minute ago. They still have to go out and prove it on the field. But we have the coach, we have the leader, we have the leaders, plural, in place to really, really turn this thing around and really start to build some momentum. And I think it started last year, bro. The second half of the season last year, that momentum we built, I mean, it just kept growing. You saw incrementally, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And you see that from teams. If you think back in in the past, you see that from teams before they become a consistent winner and start really, really challenging for not only playoff spots, but division titles and then ultimately championships. You see, if you go back before they actually take that next step, the year before is when you saw the foundation being laid. And we saw it up close and personal at the second half of the season last year on how that foundation was established, okay? That culture was established. Now, fast forward to the offseason, to free agency, they started to bring in the talent. Now, the talent is here, and then also the draft, and also the cherry on top was selecting our future franchise quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. So, yeah, it's extremely refreshing to see and hear the rest of the nation, the rest of the, the national media catching up and actually giving us some, they're realizing what we have. Our potential winner down here in South Florida, bro.
And it's crazy that, because I agree with you when you mentioned about the leadership from top to bottom, because when you look on field, you got guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Kyle Van Noy, adding a guy like Ted Garris, even if he's not the best in the room, that guy has leadership qualities to him. Eric Flowers, obviously, from what we understand in the Zoom sessions, is showing leadership qualities, defensive side of the ball. Xavier's been around, Byron's been around, Van Noy's been around. Even Shaq Lawson, you can start to kind of consider he's getting towards that veteran area in terms of how long he's been around. But, I don't think a guy who's getting enough credit is right now Chris Greer, bro, because if people go back to when I was on TD's stream, what was I always saying? With all these picks, I want a draft as good or better than that Tunsil draft, which from what I understand, that was the first draft where Greer's thumbprints were all over it. His fingerprints were all over that draft. And I thought that was one of our best drafts, especially in the last decade, was that Tunsil draft. When you look at all the value we got with our picks and stuff. And now, in terms of the film we've watched, the research we've done heading up into this draft, I can safely say that, if Noah Igbinoghene works out, and even if Brandon Jones ends up being, from what I saw in film, a solid guy in the slot, let's say for some reason he doesn't, even though he looks like he's going to be the perfect box safety, but let's say he doesn't turn into a box guy and he just ends up as a corner, he's shown the ability to hold that position down very, very well. I would arguably say he has higher potential at the slot position than a guy like Bobby McCain, who got paid by us off of it. Anyways, at least that's from what I saw in film. So like I keep saying, some of his best highlights to me came out of the slot. So if those guys turn out, from what we see already with the Tuas, I think, they could have got Austin Jackson still at the end of the first round, but they went for the left tackle because the run on left tackles and I get it, he's 20 years old. He's really athletic. He's still impressionable to coaching, et cetera, et cetera. I get all that. I think this on paper right now, when you talk about potential, this has the potential to be a way better draft than that Tunsil draft.
Oh, Absolutely.
And that's that's franchise quarterback aside. When you talk about the Raekwon Davises and the Robert Hunts, who, if you guys go back to the stream I was on when we drafted Robert Hunt, if you guys who were watching, remember I graded him as a guard when I gave my analysis, and I said he has the potential to be a top 5 guard in the NFL because I thought he was arguably the best guard in that draft. So, you know, when you look at that selection, when you look at the Raekwon Davis, when you look at the value of a Curtis Weaver and even a Solomon Kinley for what they're trying to do with that power gap, phone booth type of guys in the interior. And then when you look at Jason Strowbridge, the value where we got him at, and then Malcolm Perry, the value, and then you look at our UDFA value with the Benito Jones, et cetera, Kirk Merritt, Matt Cole, et cetera, it just seems like the ceiling, and this isn't just being biased, the ceiling for this draft is unbelievable, bro. Like, and there's already a bunch of them that I'm pretty sure are going to be home runs, bro. And I'm talking like 3 or 4 there's already.
Yeah, I agree. That in addition to free agency. I think they knocked the ball out of the park in free agency as well. Yeah. Bringing in guys that fit what they want to do, that physical, bringing in guys that fit that culture of physicality that they have established.
Culture, man.
And so, bro, I'm telling you, like I said, it's just extremely refreshing for me as a, as a fan, bro, to hear. I mean, I generally don't pay that much attention to it, but it's still good to hear. We're actually starting to get some recognition now.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we just got to get out there and prove it on the field, bro.
Great. And one thing before we keep going on the news, guys, one thing I do want to share with you, it is now set up, and I just want to go over with you guys right now, especially for the mods to pay attention. We have set up on the Patreon. So it is patreon.com/Finside the NFL. You can find it in the description below the video. So we have 4 levels. We have $5 level, which is veteran, which basically you're going to get a shout out when we have our Patreon shout outs. You're also going to be able to DM us questions through Patreon, and we're going to answer some of those questions on stream. At $10 level, that's our MVP. You're going to get the same thing as a veteran, but you're also going to get whenever discussion is opened up to viewers. So when we do our round tables or when we have viewers on one by one, you will get priority placement in the queue. And then we have our $15 level, which we call our franchise player. Again, all the same things as an MVP level, except also you get suggested topics sent to us by patrons over Patreon. At this tier will be taken into consideration for being discussed on the show. So we'll basically discuss topics you want us to discuss. And then if you want to be a Hall of Famer, which is $20 per month, you'll get all the things the other 3 tiers have, but you'll also have the ability to come on here with me and EM, and all 3 of us will debate and we'll talk about a topic of your choosing. So, guys, if you want to become a patron, go over to patreon.com/Finside the NFL. And again, if you just want to donate to us strictly, paypal.me/Finside. We appreciate all the support. We're about 91 subscribers away from 1,000. When we hit 1,000, guys who keep asking they want to donate through YouTube, that's when the super chat donations will be open up to everyone when we hit 1,000. And again, when we hit 1,000 too, guys, we are going to be giving away a Tua Tagovailoa jersey. So, yeah, man, stick around because you're going to have to be a subscriber to be eligible to win that jersey. So, yeah, guys.
Very good. Very good.
So, yeah, Flores, I agree with you totally. I think Flores, man, I think we lucked out in terms of it seems like we plucked the one guy from the Belichick coaching tree that looks like he might work out. You know what I mean? So, again, that's got to be kudos got to be given to a guy like Chris Greer on that. So, and I was one of the guys that was saying, hey, if Greer screws this draft up, and then you got to seriously consider. But he's done a fantastic job, man. So I'm not going to knock.
On paper, it definitely looks like he knocked it out of the park. So
for sure,
can't wait to see the product on the field, bro. Oh, I can't wait.
This man is hyped.
Let's just keep them prayers up that there won't be any disruptions. In the midst of this COVID-19 situation. So, man.
So let's get into a guy who's actually was one of the main topics of one of our first ever videos, EM. Remember Chris Jones? I believe it was our second or third video we did on this channel, right? Remember that?
Chris Jones. Who was that? Chris Jones. Refresh my memory.
So I just want to show people what Mike Garofalo said on Total Access, and then we'll get into it. So this is what Mike Garofalo said about Chris Jones, because then a couple hours later, something interesting transpired.
No, I'm going with the list. I'm going with the guy that's tied for number 6. That would be Kansas City defensive lineman Chris Jones, who was on the tag at $16 million plus this year, but always viewed himself as a $20 million plus per year guy. The Chiefs, frankly, never did. Even before the whole COVID situation, never made an offer north of $20 million. Felt like they could get him somewhere below that. So a lot of work to be done here if there's going to be a long-term deal for Chris Jones, who was disruptive throughout the regular season and then in the postseason as well. Had a pressure in the Super Bowl that led to an interception. This is a guy that has put up the production the last couple of years to deserve a long-term deal. Not quite sure it's going to happen, though.
Oh man.
But 20 million, the guy wants north of $20 million. And this is what happened. That video Mike Garofalo posted around 6 o'clock Eastern at about 10:08 p.m. Eastern. On my sports update, they posted this screenshot. Basically, Chiefs and defensive lineman Chris Jones have until July 15th to work on a long-term deal. Doesn't sound like the two sides are close, and Jones is now threatening to skip the season. And he basically was responding to someone who reposted the Mike Garofalo Arrowhead Live. They reposted that video I just showed you guys, and they just reposted it with a thinking emoji. And underneath it, this was Chris Jones's response, and he said, "Or I won't play." At Le'Veon Bell told me about this. So basically, "Or I won't play," in response to the Garofalo video about how Garofalo said he should get an extension, and he's basically saying, "Or I won't play." Le'Veon Bell told me about it.
I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to be totally transparent with you, bro. $20 million is a lot of money for an interior player, defensive lineman. But this kid is as disruptive a player as it gets in today's NFL. Extremely versatile player. I mean, you multi-dimensional. You can line him up all up and down that line. Our defensive front, I'm gonna have to get a hold of myself with my, me potentially going ballistic, because I mean it's a little. I'm sure I don't think it's realistic. I would hope that the Dolphins would, and I hope that they are seriously considering this trade possibility. Here's what I would do if I'm the Dolphin. If I am Brian Flores. I know the Kansas City Chiefs last year, they made a transition from a 34 base to a base 4-3. Okay. I would contact Andy Reid if I'm Brian Flores, and I would tell him this. I would offer him this. One of our second round picks, okay, and I would offer up Devon Godchaux in that trade package for Chris Jones. Because I think, number one, Godchaux, I think he's a better, more natural fit for a 4-3, I think. And again, $20 million is expensive. That's an expensive pill to swallow. But again, we talked about this before in previous streams, bro. This is with the surplus of resources that we have, and I know we're limited somewhat in terms of our salary cap now, but there's a way to get around that if they really want to free up money to be able to sign him to a long-term deal. But this is the year to do it. We're not in salary cap hell. I know we just gave, we gave Byron Jones, the richest contract for a cornerback, and I know we have Xavier Howard on a high salary as well. But Xavier Howard is going into year 3 of his deal, I believe. Yeah, year 3 of his deal. So if you make this type of investment in this player, I think, again, it's all about the structure of the deal. And if we were able to obtain a player of this caliber, I think his presence in the middle of this defense would take our defense to an unprecedented level that we've never seen in Miami. I really truly believe that this kid is that good of a player. Again, is it realistic? Probably not. More than likely, it isn't. But I really hope Brian Flores is sitting down and he and Chris Greer are entertaining this possibility. Because if they can get this kid, oh my God, you talking about the debate about us being top 10, we would immediately overnight.
Against the run, bro.
My God, bro.
And you have against the run in the pass, up that all of a sudden our interior is just. And what's crazy is, bro, me and you have talked about the similarities between Chris Jones and Raekwon Davis. Coming up. Raekwon learning under him. And what's the thing? You know what you do, bro? This is what you do. First of all, you front load it. The thing is, but the problem why I don't think they're going to touch him are 2 reasons. Because we have just over $20 million and we still have to sign Robert Hunt and Noah Igbinoghene. And the other problem to me, I think with how this COVID thing is going, more teams want to roll over as much money as possible in the next year because there is talk about the cap not going up.
Yeah, I agree. And that might be why Kansas City is taking.
You'd have to move off. We talked about this. We go back to our original video, guys. Especially with how this pandemic's working out, you would have to move Xavier Howard's contract in that deal, bro, to alleviate that just over $15 million. So then you could hit him around 20, and it's only technically costing you $4 or $5 million new money. And then because I think people have worked it out where they're predicting after Noah and Robert Hunt, we should have around 15 million. So that's why I don't think it's
how much if he signs his franchise tag. What's that number? What, 15?
He's already signed it. It's 16.5 million, right?
16.5 million.
Didn't he sign it? He hasn't signed it yet.
I don't think they got till July 15th.
It's 15th. They have till July 15th. It's 16.5 million. I think he signed it, but they have till the 15th to negotiate a new extension. Let me check if he signed it. If anyone in the comments lets me know, you can look. I'm not looking, guys. I'm Googling.
I didn't think he signed it.
I know it's 16.5 million. Yeah, I don't think he. I don't think he has signed it.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, if I'm the Dolphins, I'm seriously considering. I am seriously entertaining this possibility, bro.
Well, all of a sudden, your front seven is like not only complete, but it's probably top 3 front seven in the NFL.
Absolutely.
When you add in Ogba's there, you saw what Ogba did when he was playing
right next to him.
Yeah,
right next to him.
And then when you add in Christian Wilkins, bro, you know what's funny too? If you really want to play it smart, bro, package Godchild with Howard too and get a draft pick back. Because you're going to lose him anyway. You're not going to pay for him. You're not going to pay him at the end of this year, especially if you're shelling out to a Chris Jones. You ain't paying Godchild, bro.
I really don't want to move off of Xavier Howard this year.
I'm just saying financially, if after Noah signs and Hunt signs, we only have 15 million. I mean, you have to kind of, because you're going to want that extra space, because now all of a sudden you got 29, 30, 20 of that is going to Chris Jones. Now you only got 9 or 10 million. You want that space because you never know what's going to happen in terms of cuts during training camp. A safety could get cut that you want to slide in there at a veteran minimum, bro. And boom, next thing you know, you're set.
See, if they would have just, and I'm not hating on Albert Wilson, but that was the move to make. If you were going to seriously entertain this, that was the move to make. You should have just released him and saved that $9.5 million, and you were right there we would have been right there, man. Right
We
there.
could have manipulated it because we would have had about 23.5, 24 million.
Yeah.
And with the additions of Kirk Merritt and Matt Cole, etc., your boy Mac Hollins, you never know, right? So you never know, right? So.
But if they really want to make it work, they could. There's always ways. There's always a way to manipulate the cap.
Exactly. The one thing Omar Kelly is only consistently right about when he talks about that is about how you can manipulate the cap any which way, right? It's just a number.
Oh. But I would definitely. That's the package that I would. They're getting a player. They're getting an established player in the league. I mean, he's not the the player that Chris Jones is, but it's really maybe two players in the entire league at that position that's on his level. But they're getting a player, and you're getting a very good draft pick as well in return.
Yeah.
So that's the package I would throw at Kansas City.
So I just want to go over a little thing because you know how high I was on this kid. So going back to Mike Garofalo for a second, man, you know how high I was on Jordan Love. And I want to say this to specifically Flipside Fishing, who would always argue with me about Herbert and Jordan Love. Let me know when, first of all, not only is Jordan Love the first ever number 26 pick overall to receive a fully guaranteed deal under the new rookie contract system. But last I checked, all of Herbert money ain't guaranteed. So holla at me when he's even good enough to get that, because this shows the faith that they have in this kid moving forward. And Aaron Rodgers, tick-tock, that is the sound of your days in Green Bay potentially being numbered. It seems sooner than people thought. The fact that they were willing to invest all that money right off the rip shows me, not only did they trade up for him, not only did they move up for this guy, but now they've also fully guaranteed his contract. I mean, that just goes to show, bro. I think they got a lot of faith in what he's going to be. And you know what? He's in, look at how far they went last year. He's in a decent situation, especially with how that defense is being built over there. So that'll be interesting to see. And shout out to my dynasty team, because I got Joe Burrow and Jordan Love on my dynasty team. So let's hope that works out, bro. I mean, first ever 26th overall pick. Gotta love it, bro.
To be honest with you, I could care less, bro.
Bro,
I don't want to talk about no damn Jordan Love, dude.
My boy, bro.
I don't want to talk about no damn Jordan Love.
I didn't ask you what you want to talk about, bro.
Get that nonsense off that screen.
I want you to sit there with your hands folded and be quiet while I talk, bro.
Get that nonsense off that screen. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Bro, you should be ashamed of yourself, bro.
Is that TD I see on? Is that TD sitting on? Is that TD I see on screen?
With your low angled EM vision over there, bro. Talk about being ashamed. So the updated NFL preseason schedule, because the first and fourth week of the scheduled preseason I'll show you guys in a second, but we were all led to believe they were officially canceled. So the updated NFL preseason schedule is as follows. July 28th, nearly all NFL teams will report to training camp. And then preseason week 1, August 20th to 24th. Preseason week 2, August 27th to the 31st. And what's crazy is this came out around, again, 5 o'clock, just before dinner. And then about an hour and a half later, bro, Mike Garofalo making a ton of appearances tonight. He comes out with, while the expectation for weeks has been the NFL goes to 2 preseason games, the NFLPA hasn't signed off, and some in union leadership continue to question whether it's smart to play any preseason games. Sources tell me. Tom Pelissero, Board of Reps calls on Thursday. Stay tuned.
Wow, I hadn't seen that one. That's interesting. But we all know how I feel about. I mean, I'm not really a fan of preseason. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, 4 games was way too much. they should have been. I think they should have. A long time ago, they should have cut those 4 games down to 2. But no preseason games. That's interesting. Wow. I mean, I think in terms of player evaluation, I don't necessarily feel like you have, and I don't want anybody to think I'm minimizing live gameplay in live game type situations. I'm not trying to minimize that, but I just think I'm a proponent of teams. You get a firm evaluation on a player. You're seeing them 6 days a week, bro, at practice. Yeah. So you can get a firm evaluation.
It's like game speed for rookies.
Right. I agree. And it's not the end all be all if they opt to not have, it's not the end of the world if they opt to not have any preseason games. Again, like I said, you're seeing these kids 6 days a week, in training camp. So, but I mean, I would like to have 2 preseason games, obviously as a fan, just to watch, just to be able to, observe football on TV again. But yeah, man, that's, you just have to understand, you just got to think and sit back and, what kind of effect will it have on these rookies, these UDFAs, these rookies that are coming into the league, that need that preseason experience to showcase what they can do in live situations. You have to wonder how that's going to impact rosters and coaches' evaluations. But again, like I said, it's not the end of the world if they opt not to not have any preseason games. Man, it's concerning. And to be honest with you, Reason, I'm still very concerned about the season. Us having a season, a 16-game season especially. So if they opt to not have any kind of preseason games, bro, you got to sit back and ask yourself, how is that going to impact the regular season as a whole? So definitely worth paying it's worth paying close attention to, and we'll see how this unfolds. But yeah, man, it's concerning. I really am. I really am concerned. So we'll see.
Yeah, man, it more and more as each day passes by, it gets a little bleaker and bleaker, but something in me just tells me that these guys aren't screwing around in terms of they want to make sure that this season gets played out because they don't want to lose out on all that money.
Yeah, man. And I want to see football as bad as everyone else, but and again, I'm not necessarily worried about what's going on internally, in the NFL. It's the outside, the things in the country that's going on. That's what I'm concerned about the most. So,
because I mean, what was it? It was announced today that the governor of Florida has basically ordered almost 75% of Florida back, basically almost into basically they've almost shut down 75% of Florida. They're on their way to basically putting the whole state back into lockdown, 14. Right? How it was, man.
And they're doing the same here in Texas as well. We talked about that privately, man. It's disturbing. I'm like,
and this is what we're saying. We hope there's not a third wave, right? That's what we hope.
Right. So, yeah, it's looking like maybe we open things up a little prematurely. But yeah, it's definitely concerning. Definitely.
So do you still think they're going to go through with the season?
Again, I think their intentions are to. They're all, they're full speed ahead as far as, starting the season. But I mean, what can the NFL do if we have to go back into a nationwide lockdown? Their hands are cut. They're handcuffed at that point. So again, I'm not concerned about the NFL's plan. I'm concerned about the government's plan. So yeah, man, it's definitely concerning. I'm very, very concerned.
I feel like if they're gonna play this out, I feel like they gotta get moving on that bubble right away.
Yeah, I agree.
Like they basically gotta they got to basically like create their own NFL bubble, right?
I agree. The sooner the better, bro. The sooner the better. So, and hopefully the players, you're going to have those players, man, that are just, that obviously they're not going to be used to this being in a situation like this. And you got to worry about players, sneaking out and, not following the rules and protocol that's been put in place, and potentially getting out and subjecting themselves to exposure and then coming back to the team. You know what I mean? That whole dynamic, that possibility is there, and it's gonna continue to be there. It's a lot, bro. It's a lot to be concerned about, man. A lot. But again, like I said, man, hopefully things just get better, and they can get this plan. I'm sure they do have something concrete in place. But like you just said, bro, they need to get out ahead of it. The sooner the better, as soon as possible. The sooner the better. So yeah, man, but yeah, we'll see, bro. We'll see how it all unfolds, man.
Man, if this takes away our football, oh my God.
I don't even want to entertain that right now, bro. I don't even want to talk about that. Can you imagine? I mean, that's going to be ugly. Dude, ugly. We're not going to have football in the fall, and we're stuck inside,
Especially when those winter months start.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine that? So hopefully, again, man, let's just I just try to think as positive as possible. And another thing as well, we'll see how the NBA, how that situation, how they implement their plan and how successful they are with their plan. I think if they are pretty successful with what they're trying to establish, I think that'll definitely bode well for the NFL. But again, my biggest concern is the country as a whole, and not necessarily the NFL. So, well, we'll see, man. Just try to stay positive. All we can do is just stay positive. So, man.
Hold on, let me just set this to I should.
And I want a season without any disruptions. I don't want to start the season and then having to stop after 5 games and have to pick up at a later date. I don't want that. If you're gonna have the season, I want to have it without any disruptions at all. So, oh, man, I just never thought, bro, to be on, not to to get sidetracked or anything like that. But I just never thought I'd see anything like this, anything remotely close to anything like this, bro, in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
This is, when I'm talking privately with my family and friends, we're like, man, we would never. I got a friend, bro, that I basically grew up with, and I mean from like the sandbox, and we're like, man, we would never, ever envision anything. We would see anything like this in our lifetime. Never. This is like movie type. This is like a movie script.
Oh, for sure.
And,
110%.
It's crazy, man. Just crazy.
So, an interesting tidbit that came out today, bro, is something. First of all, I've been saying, what have I been saying, bro? And even you didn't give me pushback. You agreed with me, but you just think it's not going to be enough. What have I been saying, bro? I've been saying for months that I heard that the Patriots love Jarrett Stidham, bro. That they like how he's developed and how he's grown behind Tom Brady. So that's why when we were talking about Cam Newton, how me and you were reiterating, hey, don't pass the torch to this guy just yet. Mm-hmm. And so Diana Rossini of ESPN, bro, she came out this morning. She said, I spoke over text with an AFC East head coach. So, I mean, it's either Belichick, Flores, Gase, or McDermott on Cam Newton and the Patriots. He said, I think they're going to keep 3 QBs, use Cam perhaps as the wild card. I actually don't see him starting week 1 in the offense. I know one thing for a fact. The Patriots love Jarrett Stidham. So, I mean, it's not from what's being understood, it's not a slam dunk like many people are proclaiming it to be, bro, because I mean, we get it. You know, when he was 6-2 before the injury and Nerve Turner's offense, 2018, you know, they ran kind of a death by 1,000 cuts, quick, short throws, routes, kind of what they do in New England. But I just don't think us or the Bills, you're not going to beat us by death with 1,000 cuts, man. Those aren't it's not going to translate because I think both teams run too good. They got too good of coverage. They got too good of secondaries in coverage for you to beat them like that. I just don't think it's going to happen, man. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about this on the last stream, bro. I mean, I was like, are we really saying that Cam is going to start? I didn't, when they signed him, I was like, well, okay, you got Cam Newton. But again, they have a young player that obviously they're high on, and he's been in the system for 2 years. And I think people, when they made when the signing was announced, people were just, taking Cam's name recognition and just going to town with it, bro. And they weren't considering, the potential fit within their offense. They weren't considering, again, they have a quarterback in place that they are obviously high on that's been in the system for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I think people need to kind of alter their expectations as far as Cam being a day one starter, because again, that system that New England, and we talked about this on the last stream as well, how difficult that system is to comprehend. And people are just, I was like, man, y'all need to slow down just a little bit, because Cam, again, he will be 32 years old at some point this year. He's coming off shoulder surgery. Okay. And then we last stream, we highlighted all of his deficiencies, within his game. So people, I think that they're just, when they made that signing, we talked about this privately, they just hear the name Cam Newton and, oh my God, and they're thinking he's the 2015 version of Cam Newton. He's not. And
he doesn't have a Christian McCaffrey like he had in 2018, right?
And he's coming to a team that you saw last year, the greatest quarterback arguably to ever play this game, how he struggled mightily, the last 6-7 games of the season because of the lack of weaponry at the skill position. So you're expecting, again, either Jarrett Stidham or, because that's my argument with Jarrett Stidham as well, but Cam Newton to come into a situation like this. And again, we highlighted all his deficiencies on the last stream, and you're expecting him to come in and that makes them the favorites in the AFC East. I mean, really? Okay.
And what are they famous for? What's crazy is, you saw similarities in the terms of the underneath routes and the death by 1,000 cuts, like I keep saying, with what Norv Turner runs and what you can say, but they're actually different systems, because if you look at what Norv Turner's favorite system to run is, it's the air Coryell system. When you look at what the preferred scheme to run on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots and Josh McDaniels' system is, it's the Earhart-Perkins system. They have similarities with underneath routes, but at the end of the day, the verbiage isn't the same, the terminology isn't the same, et cetera, et cetera. So he's going to have to learn that. He's going to have to catch up, bro. And the one thing we've talked about this, what's the one thing that, veteran receivers who didn't pan out, who went to the Patriots, said? What was the difficult thing about that? The amount of routes on the route tree for what was it? The normal is around. You usually have about three routes,
and it's 5 for every route in their playbook.
It's 5 or 6 for every route in their playbook. It's literally like almost doubled. So I don't think people, and that's why that person who was talking to her highlighted, I don't see him starting by week 1 because of where he's at and how ahead. You got to people remember Brian Hoyer. Yeah, he's been in and out of the system, but if I remember correctly, they drafted Brian Hoyer.
Mm-hmm.
So these are guys that Jarrett Stidham, they drafted him. Jacoby Brissett, even when Brady went down and Garoppolo went down and Brissett had to go in and they added a little bit more option to the offense. At the end of the day, it was still the base offense, just with some schemes added to it. And the thing with that is Jacoby Brissett still had to know the initial system. He still had to know what they're running. Because you're telling me, like, I'm telling you, you got to understand what Belichick and Josh McDaniels do. Even if they change it, it's going to be complicated.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to change it to be easier. They're the last people in the world that are going to dumb down their playbook.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I want to say this too, because me and you had this talk about when we went off air. People forget, and I get it. Tim Tebow, okay? Tim Tebow was arguably just as good of an athlete as Cam Newton, okay? Mm-hmm. He was a gifted athlete. He led them to the playoffs based off of his athleticism and his sheer will to win. And he had that winner's DNA that I always talk about. Some players have and some players don't. He had that. And the thing was, let me ask you this. Josh McDaniels was the head coach. Did Tim Tebow get better as a passer?
No.
No, Tim Tebow got ran out of the league. They relied on his athleticism. Problem is, we're now at a 31-year-old Cam who it's not 2015 people. He's not. That was 5 years ago when he was 26. Again, we talk about, what do we mean? You always say when you're in your early to mid 20s, you heal quicker. But it's when you get to your late 20s and the early 30s, you start feeling it more and more. Guys now 31. Now, if this is 2016, 2017, okay, talk to me because we're only a year or two removed from that. But we're 5 years removed from an MVP. We're 2 years removed from his best season since he was an MVP. And when you break down the context of that season, bro, Christian McCaffrey, bro, when you actually break down, guys, I posted it on my Twitter. You can follow me at the_real_reason. And I broke down what I said on here. I went even to further depth, and I broke down the percentage of the completions and the percentage of all these things that Christian McCaffrey accounted for. So I think people just who's gonna be that? James White?
I don't see it. Definitely week 1. I definitely don't see him starting week 1. So I think Stidham will be given an opportunity. He will be given every opportunity to, win that, to keep that, because I think he's a starter right now. He will be given every opportunity to keep that starting job. But if he comes out and he's horrible, I think Cam they'll quickly transition to Cam at some point, and hopefully I think the approach will be to hopefully, in the event if they're placed in a situation like that, that they have to transition to Cam. Cam will be somewhat caught up, maybe week 4, 5, 6, or 7. He'll be caught up, at that point. So I doubt it. I don't think I just think my indictment is on more Cam as the player at this point. His style, I think, again, he'll be 32 at some point this year. I've just never been a fan of Cam's overall game, because I think he's just a flawed player. He's been a flawed player at Auburn. He's been a flawed player since he came into the league. Even in his height, and you went over to his statistics the last stream, bro. Even in the height of his MVP season, his nuclear season that he had, he still was deficient in so many different areas of his game. So I'm just not a fan of Cam's game overall, and I just don't think a 32-year-old Cam is going to come in and just totally rebuild and restructure his game to where it needs to be, to where he needs to be more consistent within the pocket. I just don't see it. I think it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, and what's the thing you have talked about too? You notice him once he gets off his first or second progression, his automatic reaction is to try and make something happen.
Exactly, with his legs.
We went over this. When you account for the fact that he's been sacked 310 times in his NFL career, only 47 of those sacks can be attributed to his offensive line, including
Mm-hmm.
tight ends that block. So that shows you right there. That's a lot of self-created pressure that's turning into sacks at a high rate. And when you look at how the Dolphins have already improved their front seven, and you look at how they lost Shaq Lawson over there in Buffalo, but they still added AJ Epinesa, Mario Addison. They still have the guys that they have that we went over. Those guys are going to eat if you create that consistent pressure on yourself, man. So, and you're going to have to see those two teams 4 times in a year. It's like, Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless, everyone talks about how big of an idiot he is. Well, the crazy thing is he's actually a Cam supporter in all this. And then he looked at their schedule. And then I was telling you this earlier. Skip Bayless looked at their schedule, and he said, he's like, I have trouble finding 8 wins when I look at this schedule.
I agree.
His exact quote, it's going to take a minor miracle for Cam to get this team into the playoffs. That was his exact quote, bro. And what have I been saying? You need Cam to return to somewhat near MVP status. You need N'Keal Harry to prove he's worth the high investment Belichick made that he never has in any other receiver and not be the bust that he looks like he might turn out to be. You need Sony Michel to turn into 2 years ago what he was in the playoffs. Then on the flip side, you need the defense who have lost Van Noy, Danny Shelton, and Jamie Collins to all of a sudden not just be historically great for the first 8 games like they were last year. You need them to have that consistent level of play all 16, 17 games, bro.
Absolutely.
So
I don't see it.
These are a lot of variables that he needs because of the lack of talent around him, bro. And I don't see it, bro. And he's already behind. He's already behind the curve. So what if he catches up week 4, week 5, and they're already down 1-3 or 1-4? Now he's going to carry that team. I just don't see it happening, bro. I see too many factors working against him.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one obviously is just the and it's going to affect Jarrett Stidham as well. They just don't. It's just they don't have the weaponry at the skill positions. They just don't. They're not going to be able to just line up and run the ball 40 times a game and just bludgeon teams and expect to be successful that way. It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
So you have to be balanced. You have to be balanced in terms of your approach to be competitive. And I think that teams will make them one-dimensional, and they're going to make them one-dimensional, and they're just going to feast. Buffalo's, our team,
even the Jets.
In front, how stout they are up front. Yeah. So they're going to make them one-dimensional, and they're going to force Jarrett Stidham to beat the opposing team or Cam Newton. And I just don't see it.
Like when they
do not think it's possible.
Bro, when they face the 49ers, good luck to them.
Oh. And Seattle, they play Seattle too, bro.
Yeah,
the Seahawks,
them, bro.
The Chiefs, they play the Chiefs again.
Arizona.
Oh man, Arizona. Oh my God. Oof. It's not looking good. It brings so much comfort to me to hear, to see the Patriots struggle like this and to have this cloud of uncertainty over their team as opposed to it being over ours. Oh my God, it's so refreshing to see that, man.
So what about
I'm not gonna lie to you.
So what about this, bro? I couldn't confirm how legitimate this guy is, but Logan Lane, who his Twitter claims he's an independent Miami Dolphins reporter. When you go to it, you can see it. I bring it up right here. Independent, University of Alabama, graduated at Florida State. So he said, can confirm the Miami Dolphins are among a number of teams that have discussed internally bringing in Antonio Brown. Most teams involved would require Brown signing with very little guarantees. Brown is a Miami native and attended Miami Norland High School, where he was a 2-time 6A All-State selection. He spends his off seasons in Miami.
Damn. Wow. Yeah, I haven't seen this. First time I've seen this. We talked about this privately, but I haven't heard that. A lot of outlets that I follow But damn, ooh-wee. I mean, what do you say? I don't know how to respond, Reason. I mean, obviously, okay, I'm going to start with this. I think, okay, here's why I would entertain the possibility of Antonio Brown in 2020 is because I think we have we have established the foundational culture to be able to handle a, flamboyant, whatever you want to call it, personality like his within our locker room.
But if anyone's going to keep that in check, it's going to be Flores.
Exactly. So the only question I have with Antonio Brown is he's played very little football the last 2 years. So my question is with the talent, is he still the Antonio Brown that we're accustomed to seeing?
Mm-hmm.
But if he is, I would, I'm not saying I would pull the trigger on it, but I would entertain bringing in that talent because we all know 3 years ago, Antonio Brown was the premier. It wasn't even a question who the best receiver, in my estimation, who the best receiver in all of football was. I mean,
and apparently Seattle's interested in him too, right?
Oh, don't let him go there. Please don't let him go there. Oh, man. Don't let him go to the Seahawks. Please don't. We talked about this privately. But anyway, I would entertain 2019 Miami Dolphins. Absolutely not. But 2020, because of all the foundational structure that we have within our team, within our locker room, within our organization, I think we're more equipped to handle a player, as controversial as Antonio Brown is. As long as he doesn't come with that just craziness, that absolute buffoonery that he left in Oakland and what he left in New England. I can deal with somewhat his mouth, I can deal with some of his controversial statements that he generally makes that you see from him every year. But as long as he's not an extreme disruption, I would definitely entertain bringing in the talent. But again, that's my biggest question because of the lack of football that he's played over the last 2 years. I just question the talent. But if you bring him in and this kid is still able to run routes like we saw from him 3 years ago, I would definitely entertain because you can get him, he more than likely he's not going to command an enormous salary. And on top of that, he knows he has to know.
If Cam and Jameis are only getting around $1 million each, he ain't demanding much money.
And he has to know that this is his last chance. So he should be just motivated. He should have crazy motivation at this point. So I would definitely entertain, again, the talent. But again, they're not going to be able to see that until they bring him in and work him out and to get a better assessment of where he is. But, oh, yeah, I'm entertaining it, bro. 2020 Miami Dolphins, absolutely. Because if he's the player, the talent that he was, 3 years ago.
You make it incentive laden with an out clause.
Yeah.
Out clause.
And we're talking about the impact that Chris Jones could have on this defense. Oh, can you imagine the impact that he would have on this? And if Tua starts with him, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Y'all see them goosebumps, but let me calm down a little bit. But, oh, man. But in closing, yeah, I would definitely entertain the talent.
So something we've talked about on the stream here multiple times before, just in passing and just by chance, bro. Should the Dolphins, because the Dolphins Wire, they put out a good article today, and they asked the question, should the Dolphins consider playing Byron Jones at safety, bro?
Primarily, no, because I think his value is on the boundary.
Agreed.
But I do agree you will see him at some point situationally. You will see him in that role. Oh, absolutely. We talked about this. I've been consistent about this all year since we signed him. we will see him in that role at some point situationally, but his value is on the boundary. That's clear. That's evident. But no, I'm not paying him. I'm not paying a free safety the money that you paid him. No, you're paying. You brought him in here. You made that kind of investment for him to be that lockdown corner on a boundary. So no, I'm not playing there primarily. But yeah, you will see him at because of the creativity and the different personnel groupings that Flores likes to deploy. If you're going off, just basically what New England likes to do.
Mhm.
We saw last year the different personnel groupings, with all those players they signed from Lowe's last year. So you can definitely, you have to think that with a player like him, I can see him being moved all around this defense in that single high roll again, situationally, and definitely on the boundary and also in the box as well, because he's got experience playing closer to the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I fully expect and anticipate him being in that role at some point, in stretches of the season. But no, I'm not paying. His value is on the boundary. Period.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, especially when you look at what we're trying to deploy with tackling alone, bro. We want to create those small windows, and if you beat them, you get tackled immediately, and the guy's the ideal fit for something like that. So why would you take him away out of that position, bro? And I guess the people, yeah, I agree with you, bro. I think you're going to see him obviously move there throughout in different packages and stuff like that, but permanent full-time usage there, I think, wouldn't be using his skill set wisely. So,
but again, I can see, to be honest with you, I can see, all of our cornerbacks, and not necessarily see, if you look at how everything is so matchup based from a secondary standpoint, you're going to see a lot of unconventional deployments. You're going to see if you're just going off what New England does. At times you'll see, it's again, the approach is always matchup based. So like if you're taking the Kansas City Chiefs, if you go back and watch, you put that AFC Championship game tape on from 2 years ago, how they matched up, the different deployments that they threw at Kansas City. I remember seeing formations where they were like in a, I can't recall the exact formation, but you saw, and I'm just using Stephon Gilmore as an example. You saw how, you would see him lined up in the box at times because his receiver, again, another thing as well, all of these cornerbacks that we have travel. So this is the point I'm making. New England, Stephon Gilmore, all of their cornerbacks, for the most part, they travel. So wherever their particular matchup will be aligned, that's where that player will go. So, for example, if the Kansas City Chiefs is in a 4 wide receiver set, okay, and for that particular play, they have Xavier Howard assigned to, let's say, N'Keal Harmon, and he's lined up in one of the slot positions in a 4 wide receiver format. And we take the approach that, well, okay, we like Xavier Howard. He's a better matchup to, I think, isn't his name N'Keal Harmon? You know what I'm talking about, though.
McCall
Harmon.
Yeah.
Because of the heavy man deployment, you won't have, and it all depends on formationally. You won't have necessarily, if the guy is lined up on the interior, one of the interior slot positions, you might see either Byron Jones or whoever they designate is the more favorable matchup with that particular receiver. You might see him aligned in a conventional safety position, but he's not actually playing safety, if that makes sense, because that's just particular where that particular receiver is aligned. That is where that just so happens to be where you have to align your cornerback so that it will ensure that man-to-man matchup. So he might be aligned in a you might look at that formation and you're like, well, damn, he's lined up at safety. Okay, he might be lined up in a traditional safety format. But again, because of the heavy deployment of man coverage, he necessarily won't be playing safety. He won't be playing a role, a traditional safety role in that particular situation, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you'll see the secondary. There's a lot of interchangeability, a lot of mixing and matching. And again, it's all about matchup based. And we'll see a lot. And I can't wait. We talked about this before on several streams ago. I can't wait. What's going to be so cool to see for me is the different personnel groupings that they're going to deploy on the offense and defensive end. It's going to be crazy. So with all the depth that we have, so that's going to be real fun to see this year. That's one of the most exciting things I'll be looking forward to this year, bro.
For sure.
So,
and what's crazy too is when you actually go back and you dive in to his numbers at free safety, you can kind of see why they made the transition, because he did get exposed in that single high roll a few times. I mean, he had his last season there, he had 7 touchdowns attributed to him against, and he also had almost 600 yards. He had 596 yards. But the thing is, he was a tackling machine. He had 88 tackles. Mm-hmm. But what's crazy, too, is, we talk about how good of a sure tackler he is on the boundary. He had 11 missed tackles his last season as a safety. And that is very irregular for a guy that is that sure of a tackler. That sound fundamentally, bro. It was just he was in open space more. That's all it was.
Yeah, well, he only played safety his first year, and then they made the transition.
Oh, first 2 years.
Oh, first 2 years?
Yes, sir. That was his last year. That was his second year. That was his last year before Chris Richard got there and transitioned him out. Those stats that I just gave were his last year. His sophomore season in the NFL and his sophomore season at free safety.
But you can see why, because he's still, even to this day, as good as Byron Jones is, because of his lack of ability to, intercept the football, you see where his lack of ball skills come into play, his lack of ability to track the football. And those are two, from a free safety position, those are two skills that you must have to be an upper echelon, top tier type safety. And obviously he doesn't have, he's still, and I wouldn't say it's a struggle, because, if you're going to, we all know what kind of player he is, but we all know he doesn't take the football away. And you could say it again, if you look at now, but
what's crazy, his 2 career interceptions came from his first 2 years playing the free safety role. So, it's give and take, bro. Whatever, bro. I just look at the guy as he creates tight windows, and if you do beat him,
that's his job. You're
hitting the turf, bro.
That's why we brought him in. That's why we brought him in.
And he can do that to the best of them, depending on the day, bro. So
right. That's his job. That's why they brought him in. So, but yeah, we'll see him there in stretches. So
before we get go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, something we hadn't talked about much. Considering how good Xavier Howard's ball skills are and his ability to track the football, his ability to diagnose plays. I don't know why. Well, I guess. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't know why, but because he has extreme value on the boundary as well. But I think Xavier Howard in that single high roll. I could see him being making an easy conversion to safety as well. We hadn't talked about him the possibility of him transitioning to safety, making that conversion.
Maybe they give him those reps and those sub packages, bro.
Yeah, maybe. Because we all know how his ability to take the football, his ability to high point the football. He is outstanding ball skills. So, and we all know how good of an athlete he is, and tackler as well. So we hadn't talked about the possibility of Xavier Howard, and that'll be him being played, being deployed more in that role.
The only question the only question you really have, because you really haven't had the ability to see him display it from midfield, is you would ask, what's your sideline to sideline speed like? You know, that's the one question you would ask, because you haven't been able to see it yet. That's the only question
Yeah,
you're really going to ask.
But I mean, we didn't know if Bobby McCain could do that either, and they tried to convert him.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't work out, but obviously they don't, But I just think Xavier. I'm not saying he'll be a Pro Bowl level player,
the body for it, because he's had the injuries and the durability issues. You know what I mean?
But his issue has always been with his knee. But if you put him in that single high role, I mean, that'll be less stress you're putting on them, those ligaments, because you're not doing as much cutting and transitioning in and out of breaks as you would in that single high role. So just saying, I'm not saying, this is pure speculation on my part, but I just think he has his ability to take the football.
Hopefully, if he would play it properly, he'd be in on a lot more plays in terms of tackling, though, too. So you would find out how his body would, because I mean, you're going to expect your free safety to get in the range of 70. 88 for Byron Jones is really good, but you're usually looking for about 70 to 80 tackles from that
free safety.
Yeah, from a free safety.
Yeah.
So,
but we'll see, man.
So before we get into the main topic here, bro, one last thing let's cover. Barry Jackson's article talking about Devon Godcha and McMillan in terms of how the Dolphins face key decisions. So I'll read it a bit here. Though the Dolphins appreciate the skills of both players, there's nothing on the verge of happening as far as an extension with either player. The Dolphins have been holding off for now on any more extensions. Still, Miami has not ruled out an extension for either in the months ahead, with both entering the final year of their contract. Obviously, some teams are holding off on extensions because of the NFL's 2021 salary cap is expected to drop because of league revenues due to COVID. We've talked about this because you remember Rosenhaus a couple months ago tweeted out the money bag emojis to Gotcha about how he's up next. But it goes on to say, the Dolphins initially expressed interest in giving McMillan a contract extension, but nothing has materialized. Gotcha has proven to be one of the Dolphins' best fifth-round picks in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think? It says here, Gotcha, who has taken up bicycling and is due to earn $2.1 million this season, said the contract situation doesn't weigh with him. The problem is that the Dolphins could go from having more than a pre-pandemic projection of $60 million in 2021 cap space to barely any if the cap drops dramatically. That's why, unless the Dolphins give extensions, it's helpful if Miami carries over most of the remaining cap space, which should be in the $14 million range after signing 2 remaining draft picks and filling out a practice squad. And the 2 remaining draft picks, as I mentioned earlier, are Robert Hunt and Noah Igbenogany. So, and we know with Gotcha, because Gotcha had a decent year last year, and if he continues to project upwards, he's probably going to want to get paid. So I think when you look at these two, my personal opinion, before I let you give your thoughts, bro, McMillan is the one that makes the sense to pay a little bit of money to, because I think he looks like he's going to be a better fit overall long-term in this 3-4 scheme than what Devon Gotcha is going to be, or what is out there that you could have replaced Devon Gotcha with, i.e., we talked about him earlier, a DJ Reader. He wasn't really expensive, but he would have been ideal for what these guys are trying to do. Even your boy Michael Pierce or whatever. So, and they've already drafted Raekwon Davis. They've signed Benito Jones, et cetera, et cetera. So I think McMillan, if you're going to pay one of the two, McMillan makes the most sense, but I don't think either one is worth breaking the bank over.
Well, I think I might be dropping a small bombshell right now. I'm sure a lot of people are going to come at me from what I'm about to say, but I think, to be honest with you, from what I'm seeing on the heightened level of call it interest, call it vision, call it whatever. Because of so much of this, I should say this. I think the team sees Vince Beagle as a high value player, and I think going into this year, depending on how he plays, because we went over his statistics the other night, you and I, you're on the other stream. It's a smaller sample size, but Vince Beagle played extremely well, okay, in the run game as well as in pass coverage. Mm-hmm. So I think if I'm Raekwon McMillan, I'm really starting to look over my shoulder because I think Vince Beagle is a more versatile player than what Raekwon McMillan is, obviously in the passing game, because we all know the limitations that Raekwon McMillan has had since he came into the league. And that's one of life's greatest mysteries for me with him, because he's athletic enough to be able to cover. I don't understand why Raekwon is so horrible in coverage. I mean, the guy ran a 4.59 when he came out at the combine. And that shocked a lot of people that he timed that well. So I really don't understand why Raekwon is so inefficient in that area of his game, but Vince Beagle is not. And you look at the investment that they made. They signed him. They extended him. Okay. If I'm Raekwon McMillan, and I love Raekwon McMillan, I love that physicality that he brings inside the run game. But I think this is what I think will happen. I think if Vince Beagle comes and he turns out to be the player that they envision him to be, I think that is going to be the number one reason why they don't make a future investment in Raekwon McMillan. I think he will be allowed to walk. And I think, obviously, I've said, I've been consistent about Devon Gottschall. I think he will be either traded at some point or he will definitely be allowed to walk and get a compensatory pick for him. So, but yeah, look at, from what I'm seeing, this team is extremely high on Vince Beagle.
And Van Ginkel.
And Van Ginkel as well. So there's tremendous depth at that linebacker position. And you have to sit back and when you're looking at Raekwon, when you're breaking down Raekwon's game, he's a one-dimensional player. So that means, and we all know how this coaching staff values versatility more than anything. You have to be able to do multiple things within the confines of the scheme. And we all know, as much as I love Raekwon McMillan, he's a one-dimensional player, and he has been since he's been in the league. Mm-hmm. So I think the interest that they are showing in the investment that they made in Vince Beagle will ultimately lead to, Raekwon McMillan walking or being moved at some point.
Mm-hmm. Pyromancer did Raekwon equals buses. Bus emojis. Bus tickets being handed out already, huh, Pyro? All right, so let's go into the main topic, bro. So we've identified, we're going to go chronologically, guys, in terms of, not chronologically, we're going to go in order, of ranking order. We're going to start from 5 to 1. We're going to start at the bottom of our 5. We're going to work up to 1. Because really, we only identified 5 passing attacks this season. 2 have the potential to worry us. 3 worry us. Okay? So we're going to start with the 2 that have the potential to worry us. And we're going to start with number 5.
Oh, okay.
What were you going to say?
Oh, go ahead.
So number 5, passing attack that could pose a challenge. The Cincinnati Bengals, bro. And this comes down to Joe Burrow. Me and you have talked about, in terms of his arm strength, we're not overly huge fans of it. I've called him. I think he has more. I think his arm strength wise is perfect for the dome. But when you look at his accuracy, anticipation, it's elite. I mean, on tape, it's elite. He shows really good intangibles pre-snap, post-snap. He just doesn't have a strong arm. He doesn't have zip on his short intermediate routes because of that lack of arm strength at times. But when you look at what's around him, now we're going to take out the running game, guys, because the next edition we're going to do of this, we're going to look at the rushing attacks that could pose a challenge. So we're going to look at just the passing attacks. So when you look at Joe Burrow, he's going to have John Ross. He's going to have Tyler Boyd. He's going to have A.J. Green. But they also drafted T. Higgins out of Clemson, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the weapons Joe Burrow has, when you look at his offensive line, they have a couple good pieces in place. Their running backs, again, a couple good pieces in place that we'll talk about on the next show after we do the Madden stream on Friday. Brother, they got, if Joe Burrow comes out and he's careful with the football and he protects the football, they could surprise a lot of people out of the gate in that crazy hard division. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm not saying they're going to do anything like that. But in terms of, they could turn around and they could go from, being the worst team in football to winning maybe 5, 6, 7 games.
I agree. I think they're going to challenge, and it all depends if, if they can stabilize things up front for Joe Burrow. Obviously, a quarterback transition to the NFL is going to have, it's going to be a, somewhat of a learning curve for him. Hopefully it's not for the Cincinnati Bengals, it's not too steep of a learning curve, but he's got excellent weaponry at the skill position. I've said this, when we were on TD Stream, when, people were saying that's the worst place for him to go. I was like, bro, y'all need to take a look at that roster. They have excellent weaponry at the skill position player. That's arguably a quartet of receivers, especially a trio of John Ross, Tyler Boyd, and AJ Green. I mean, bro, you can put them up against really any trio of wide receivers in the entire National Football League. So I was consistent about.
And you add in T.
Higgins. I know. So I was like, y'all need to reevaluate and reassess this roster because the cupboards are not there in Cincinnati. It's just, and then on top of that, again, like I said, if they can stabilize things up front and they get their franchise left tackle back, Jonas Jennings from Alabama back.
Jonah Williams is back.
Jonah Williams. Jonas Williams.
Yeah.
Their franchise left tackle. See, he got hurt last year in the preseason and was placed on IR. So they have him coming back. So if they can stabilize things up front, I think they have talent on defense, obviously, with start at the secondary with William Jackson III. I think he's a young ascending player, very good athletic player on the boundary. And then they signed Trey Waynes in free agency and they stabilized things on the interior with DJ Reader. And obviously we all know what a beast Geno Atkins is. So Cincinnati, I'm telling you, I'm not saying they're going to come out and be a legitimate threat in terms of winning the division next year, but they have talent on both sides of the football. But again, I think from a Cincinnati perspective, they need to kind of slow their expectations because it's going to be a learning curve for Joe Burrow. I mean, it happens very rarely do you see a player come in and just their rookie year from day one come into and light that league on fire. You rarely see it. Peyton Manning struggled his first year. Tom Brady was obviously on the bench his first year.
Aaron Rodgers was on the bench.
Aaron Rodgers was on the bench his first year. So the list goes on and on. It's highly unlikely that he comes in and we see the LSU version of Joe Burrow in Cincinnati.
Nah.
But
I see 25 touchdowns as being his ceiling.
Could be. And for a rookie,
that's really good.
Outstanding. That is outstanding.
I'm basing that on his ceiling because of the weaponry. We're not talking about the running backs, but when you add in his running back core too, he's got a pretty big ceiling, bro, with offensively.
And also reason his ability to improv.
Yeah.
People are sleeping on how good of an athlete Joe Burrow is.
Yeah.
So that's going to help him as well, making plays with his legs.
Yeah.
So he's in a good – I think he sat back. He was listening to all the negativity about the Cincinnati Bengals overhaul, and I think it kind of maybe got to him for a little bit. But he sat back and he put Madden 20 in and pulled that roster up and was like, damn.
See, I think it was like I said to you, bro. I don't think it was like the word came out of his meeting with them that he told them to basically get something done with AJ Green, so they franchise tagged him. Right? You could start to see the hints were there. I don't think the issue with him was the talent he was going to be surrounded with on the offensive side of the ball. I think it was the culture he was walking into, and that was basically he was testing him, saying, "Go do what I want you to do." They went and they did it, and he's like, "Okay." if you guys, let's see if you guys are really gonna continue to listen to me and follow my vision of what I want to do. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm sure he's watched enough of these guys to know the situation he's getting into, and Joe Burrow is probably salivating because they run a very similar West Coast offense in Cincinnati to what he's going to be running. So, because Zach Taylor loves that West Coast,
and it would be really smart of Zach Taylor to copy and paste what they did in LSU and implement that in Cincinnati, bro.
It would have been smart
to redo it.
It would have been smart to throw the bank at Joe Brady before he went to Carolina and said, "Just come here."
Yeah. You saw Andy Reid take that same approach with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this was as a traditional West Coast type of coach that you could possibly have in Andy Reid. And what did he do? He basically, when they drafted the talent, and they went through the film and implemented a lot of concepts that he was running at Texas Tech into his own, into what he likes to do. And he basically mirrored those concepts. And, that helped Patrick. Obviously, that helped. I mean, he threw 53 touchdowns in his second year. So obviously it was, that helped out Patrick Mahomes a lot. So, but even, and I see us doing that, taking that same approach with Tua. We've talked about this, we've been consistent about this since day one. So that's just a smart move of any coach to take that same approach with their young first-year franchise or first or second-year franchise quarterbacks.
And they also, they drafted the linebacker Marcus Bailey out of Purdue. You talked about earlier, they got DJ Reader. They got Mackenzie Alexander. They got Trey Waynes. They got Von Bell from New Orleans. So they've made upgrades on both sides. They upgraded the defensive side of the ball a little bit because they're trying to obviously put them in a good field position. So they spent the one thing the Bengals did too this offseason too, guys, was they also spent money, and you don't really see Cincinnati spend money. They might have been a little later in the game, but they addressed the corner situation. They addressed the defensive line. They addressed the linebacker position with Marcus Bailey, who a lot of people had as a big-time sleeper at the linebacker position out of Purdue in the draft. So they started addressing stuff. I can't really hate on they had a decent offseason, bro.
Yeah, they had a very good offseason.
And who did they draft, bro? They drafted two guys. They went out and they signed Graham Glasgow, the guard. They drafted
we had a lot of interest in.
Yeah, they drafted Natane Moody, the guard from Fresno, the monster. And they drafted Lloyd Cushenberry. And they also – oh, sorry. No, my bad. I'm looking at the wrong roster, bro. My bad. I got the wrong roster up. But they went and they made upgrades. Let me bring it up. Sorry. They drafted it was – I got the Denver Broncos up. Our next – spoiler alert, our next team. When you look at what they did on the offensive line, like you said, Jonah Williams is going to be coming back, right? So, but they went out and they addressed it. They drafted two new tackles. They drafted two new guards. They're trying to put a decent team around him as it goes. But so that brings me in to our next team. Might as well just go there. The Denver Broncos, bro. Now, when you look at the fact that Drew Lock played really well for the stretch of when he came in, and he's got Cortland Sutton, who blew up, but they also drafted Jerry Juder. They drafted KJ Hamler. They added Melvin Gordon to their backfield. They already have Noah Fant. They went and drafted that tight end that me and you liked out of Missouri, Albert Okwuegbunam. Remember the guy with the hard last name? They drafted They drafted Lloyd Cushenberry. They drafted Natane Moody. They went out and they signed Graham Glasgow. They've got Juwan James there. They got Garrett Boyles, who's really good. They've got Dalton Reisner, who's again a good guard. The Denver Broncos offense, bro. I think a lot of people are sleeping on how good this offense might actually be this year, bro. And when you look at the weaponry, now let's stick to the passing attack. We've gone over who they've added up front with the Cushion Bears and the Tony Muties through the draft. But when you look at KJ Hamler, man, in this deep draft, he was one of those studs I loved in the 10 to 15 range. I loved KJ Hamler. I think that guy's got a potential to be a 1,000 to 1,100 yard receiver. You look at Jerry Jeudy, one of the best route runners we've ever seen come out of college, who is fast enough, but he doesn't have to rely on his speed. He relies on his fundamentals and his technique and his routes to get that separation, and he does on a consistent basis. And then you got Cortland Sutton, who had a very good year last year, and then Noah Fant, who had a little bit of a coming out party at tight end, and then they draft that tight end out of Missouri that me and you both like. All of a sudden, Drew Lock is in Josh Allen territory, where you add in all the weapons and all the offensive line. They've put him in a situation where, it might only be year 2, but it's already on you.
Oh, yeah, definitely, bro. Yeah, and you know, already a solid – I think they had a top 10 defense last year, I believe. That's with a Bradley Chubb getting hurt, the second game of the season, went on IR, and him coming back this year. So, yeah, they did. They had an outstanding offseason. Obviously, Cortland Sutton, I think he was in a Pro Bowl last year, if I'm not mistaken. Jerry Jeudy is as fine a route runner as you will ever see. Just from a route running standpoint, I mean, I would put him in the upper tier of receivers, and he hadn't even taken a snap yet on an NFL field yet. So, overall, Noah Fant, very athletic tight end. You know, the addition of Melvin Gordon. And again, their offensive line, they have stability up front. Stability.
It looks like, what can I say to you, bro? When you added Lloyd Cushenberry, Natan Moody, Graham Glasgow, Dalton Reisner, and Garrett Boyles, bro, man.
If Jawan James can stay healthy, that has the potential to be a very good offensive line.
Holy.
And you know what? Now, anticipating the matchup with us, where obviously they have the potential to threaten us, over the course, with their weaponry on the outside, at the skill positions. But where I'm concerned with Denver is on the interior offensive line. Well, their offensive line as a whole. That's a concern. That's a legitimate concern. But where I think our advantage comes into play is that, again, there's still a high level of uncertainty surrounding Drew Lock. Is he going to take that? That's a huge, huge question mark. Is he going to be able to take that next step?
I think, I liked him coming out. I was high on him coming out in the draft. Man, I think I'll go on the record and say it. Last year I went on the record and I called when everyone on that stream, I'm not you, but Insanity, everyone else, the pushback I got when I said Kyler Murray was going to win the Rookie of the Year last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
Pushback I got, and then who won that?
It was crazy.
That's all I got.
Crazy.
He only won 5 games. And won that.
It's crazy.
And he tied one. So I'm going to say this, and I really truly believe in him. It's because of how good he played Seattle and how good he played San Francisco, and they realized how tough a division he's in. Anyways, I'm going to go out on the limb, and I'm going to say I think Drew Lock's going to take that. Bro, I think Drew Lock – if you watched Drew Lock last year, the one thing that popped out on me when I watched him, it looked like he was – because you see it sometimes, with quarterbacks. Those guys who come in and they just – not only do they look comfortable, the game looks like it's the right speed for them, and it even starts to slow down at times. And there were certain points last year where it looked like the game was slowing down for Drew Lock. And when I saw that, I was like, that is why I think he'll take that. Same thing with Kyler. It looked like even though Kyler plays at a fast pace, it looked like the game was slowing down a little bit. He was starting to figure it out even when he was having to improvise, right? So,
and he's an immensely talented kid as well. I mean, in terms of arm talent, well, I would say arm strength. Well, arm talent as well, because he's accurate. He's not Josh Allen. He can accurately distribute the football. but in terms of arm talent, he's in the upper tier.
Kyler?
He's talented. Huh?
Kyler?
No, I'm talking about Drew Lock.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Drew Lock. So, but again, he has to take that next step. Now, I still think our secondary matches up with any stable of wide receivers in the National Football League. I saw where Daniel Jeremiah in the NFL Network, they came out with they put together a list of teams of the fastest personnel groupings in the NFL, and they found that 11 personnel is the personnel that teams opt to implement. You know, it's obviously a one receiver, one tight end, 3 wide receiver set. So you're getting that as much speed with your 3 wide receivers, you know, on the field at the same time. And obviously the Kansas City Chiefs were clocked at the fastest. Their overall average in terms of speed was 4.45. Guess who else was on that list?
Us?
The Denver Broncos.
Wow. Because they didn't put
Denver Broncos.
Because they put Maryland.
But here's the thing, reason. Well, they conducted another. They conducted another list of the fastest nickel and dime personnel groups. Guess who was on that list at the very top? I think we were second or third. I just gave it away. We were like second on that list with an average speed of 4.45. So we have an athletic as a secondary as it gets in the National Football League, which is why I'm so confident on this team. We have that ability to match up with any team in the National Football League from us. And you look at a lot of our corners. We have the obviously Nick Needham has good long speed as well, but he's that quicker type, you know, shiftier, twitchier cornerback that might be better in confined areas. That's why I like him transition to the slot more than, not necessarily more, but I like him favorably in the slot role because he has the ability to change direction, I think, a little better than the rest of our cornerbacks.
The problem is going to be when you run into a team like the Denver Broncos who have, because I'm sure they're going to make a rushing attack list, obviously. But
that's my biggest concern.
That's going to be the problem with you got 3 quality receivers that could get the field opened up to them because you got Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon coming out of the freaking backfield, bro.
And you have to again. That's where the coverage is going to have to hold up on the back end. So again, it's all about Drew Lock. It's all on Drew Lock.
Yeah,
he takes a significant.
They put him in a position.
If he takes a significant leap forward, then hey, you just got to tip your hat to him. But I just think, you know, I mean, that's a big question mark. So.
And he's got the arm strength for tight window throws, bro.
Oh yeah, and to consistently threaten all 3 levels of the field at any time.
Yeah,
at any time.
Yeah.
So
man, I've been saying this since the schedule came out, and you can back me on that, EM. Don't sleep on the Broncos, people. Don't sleep on the Broncos. I've been saying that since the schedule came out. You go back to when the schedule got released against us. That was one of the games that worried me because if that offense gets clicking by the time we run into them, it's going to be a lot more difficult than what it would if we saw them in week 1 because of the talent they have on that offense. That's a team you want to see earlier in the season. You don't want to see them mid to late season. You want to see the Broncos early in the season.
And people are they're so high on the San Francisco 49ers pass rush, and they should be. But with Bradley Chubb coming back, people forget how dominant he was in the run game as well. He had 13 sacks in his rookie season.
Yeah,
we all know what kind of player Von Miller is.
Yeah.
So that's a concern, definitely. Austin Jackson will be tested early. He would definitely be tested or Robert Hunt. Both of them will definitely be tested in that game. So, yeah, they're a concern for sure. But in my opinion, it's all on Drew Lock.
Yeah, but you can't just worry. You know, they're good. I mean, you got look at their safeties, bro. Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons.
Yep,
look at their linebackers, bro. Not only not only is Vaughn a beast, but when you go on the inside, Todd Davis and Alexander Johnson are solid linebackers, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to that interior, they signed Jarrell Casey, bro. And they've already got Mike Purcell and Shelby Harris. Like, they're actually, their defense is they're gonna be a good team, man. It's gonna be on the rock. They put them in a position to be successful for sure.
Definitely. I think, and again, I think they were a top 10 unit last year. I think
they were.
So, and then they have a defensive-minded coach in oh man, his name.
Vance Joseph.
No, what's his free? Somebody in the comment section help me out. What's the head coach? What's the name of the head coach of the Denver Broncos? Vic Fangio.
Vic Fangio, yeah, that's it.
Vic Fangio.
I don't know why it's Vance Joseph. Wow.
I know, right? And again, that's another 34 base team as well.
Yeah.
Another 34 team. So
our next one up, number 3, bro. As we keep rolling along here, is the Arizona Cardinals, bro. Because not only, do you got to deal with now DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and Larry, the legend Fitzgerald, bro, one of the most consistent receivers ever, especially when you consider he's probably been on 2 of the worst teams in the last 15 years, and he's been able to put the numbers he has. But, Max Williams, the tight end, had a huge year last year for them, right? They've upgraded a little bit on the offensive line. I mean, they already had the guy that I always talk about, harp on, the only guy they added last year, J.R. Sweezy. They got Justin Pugh. They got DJ Humphries. But they also went out and drafted Josh Jones. So when you look at this team offensively, it's not so much just DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and Larry Fitzgerald, and then Kenyon Drake out of the backfield. It's Kyler Murray's ability to not only improvise, but to be accurate and deadly and threaten you downfield when he improvises, bro, to constantly be a nuisance or a headache. I mean, you go watch the Seattle games, you go watch the San Francisco games. I've said this multiple times on multiple different streams about San Francisco players on the defensive line coming out this year and saying the hardest player for them to defend this past year was Kyler Murray. So when you look at that addition, his skill set alone too, this team could potentially cause headaches offensively just because of his ability to get outside the pocket and make things happen consistently enough.
Well, yeah, obviously Kyler Murray, he's the problem. He's definitely, he's tough to deal with, and then you acquire for pennies on a dollar a player the caliber of DeAndre Hopkins, a weapon like that, in addition to Larry Fitzgerald. He's not Larry Fitzgerald, 5-6 years ago, but he's still a very productive player. He's primarily a slot guy now, and he's very good in that role. I look at their offense overall, though. You have to consider the instability up front. And see, this is where I think where we have a decided advantage. Again, I do like our secondary, even the weaponry that they've acquired. I still think I like first and foremost, again, I think we can match up with anybody. But I think we definitely have a favorable matchup with their wide receivers, with their wide receiving core. But where I think we have a decided advantage is up front in our front 7. I think Kyler, when you're anticipating a matchup with him, I don't think they'll be able to run the ball consistently against us. I think in terms of holding up in pass protection, it's going to be paramount for us to be able to collapse the pocket and make him uncomfortable up front and be able to contain him. Because where I think Kyler, if they are going to have a chance to beat us, it's going to have to be more improvisation than anything. Because I don't think within the timing, I don't think they can beat us from a structure standpoint offensively. I just don't. I don't think that we've seen the statistics where Byron Jones is matched up with DeAndre Hopkins in addition to Xavier Howard. Either one. I love our chances of taking away that number one threat, their number one wide receiver. And again, if we are successful at doing that, you really gonna think Larry Fitzgerald and them other wide receivers are gonna be able to separate and make consistent plays enough to beat us?
I think with the addition of drafting Benjamin out of Arizona State and adding him with Kenyon Drake, I think they're going to have a backfield that you might have to respect this year in that system, because you saw how good Kenyon Drake was in that system, in that scheme last year. So I think they might be put teams in a position where you obviously got to respect and honor the run. So it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure, bro. And I don't think their offensive line, especially with the addition of Josh Jones, I think their offensive line is obviously going to be better. I mean, but then we look at what they did defensively too, bro. I mean, they already had a decent secondary with Budda Baker and Patrick Peterson, but now they've obviously, as everyone knows, they added Isaiah Simmons, right? They went out.
I thought we were talking about offensive matchups.
No, I'm talking about they're going to put them in a position. The offense, I think their defense is better than what it was last year, and it's going to put their offense in a position to be more successful, bro.
I hear you. I just think
because I mean they're the ones who drafted. They're the ones who drafted Leaky Fatu, right? They signed Jordan Phillips. I mean, they made some. They've already got Chandler Jones. I think their defense is. I think the question mark for them this year isn't so much their offense and their passing attack and their rushing attack. It's going to be how that defense comes together. And I do expect with Josh Jones, I expect that offensive line to at least be a little bit better this year with DJ Humphries and stuff like that returning. I think I don't know, man. I think Fitzgerald out of the slot, he's basically a possession receiver now. He's really gonna, if we're putting Noah in the slot, he's really gonna test him, because that's basically one of the more craftiest veterans there is out there that's going to be up against a rookie. So that'll be interesting. DeAndre and Byron would be a dogfight. And the other thing too is if Kyler starts rolling out, Kyler starts moving around, he could come up, he could roll out to the line of scrimmage, draw linebackers or corners or whatever out of passing lanes, and all of a sudden passing lanes developed that weren't there, all because he decided to roll out, because that's what happened a lot of the time last year with him too.
Well, that's why I said, that's the primary concern with Kyler Murray is it's improv. I think if we're able to condense that pocket and contain him, make him uncomfortable and make him beat you within the confines of, you keep him inside the pocket and force him to consistently make throws against our secondary. I just don't see it. I just think our secondary matches up with their receiving core. If they are to beat us, it will be primarily Kyler Murray. It will be on his shoulders, his ability to extend plays, his ability to improvise, and him making plays with his legs as well. That is the concern. But if we don't, I just don't see them being able to run the football on us consistently enough. I think at the end of the day, we'll be able to make that offense one-dimensional. And, again, we talked about this before. Kyler Murray, how you remedy a quarterback with that kind of athleticism, i.e. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray's of the world, Russell Wilson's of the world, you put a spy on them. That's what you do. You get into your sub packages, you know what I mean, your nickel dime packages, and you have a cornerback spy him. But you can't get into your exotics until you minimize their running game. And I just don't think they will be able to get the consistent push up front to gash us in the running game. I just don't see it. They will be made one-dimensional. We will implement sub packages, and they will put a spy on him and force him to make consistent throws against this secondary. And it's not necessarily him making throws. The receivers have to get open. The receivers have to separate. So I just don't see it. I don't see it with Arizona. Not to say they'll be a bad team, but I think this is more. I just hold our secondary, barring any kind of unforeseen issues. I just hold this secondary in a hot. I just think I'm extremely high on the secondary, and I think we will be able to match up with any wide receiving core, in the National Football League. I just truly believe that. The only way I think at this point, until proven otherwise, again, if I'm to remain consistent, it's just that up the middle on the interior of this defensive line. It's just uncertainty there. It is what it is. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, I just don't see teams being able to threaten us through the air. Even the number one team. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go that far. But
what were you going to say?
I was going to say even the number one number one team. That's the biggest concern on our list. But I'm not going that far. But the Arizona Cardinals, no, I just don't think so. I think we're constructed the way this team defense has been constructed. I think it's going to be a nightmare for opposing offenses, bro, all year long. I truly believe that.
I can tell you truly believe that. I just hope you're right. I don't think it's going to be as big of a cakewalk as.
No, I'm not saying. It's never a cakewalk. I don't want to. It's not going to be the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense. No, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be a challenge, just like any other season. But again, I'm going to keep pounding the table. It's all about that man scheme. It's all it gives you. Again, if you have the guys that can cover, and you have two potentially all-pro guys, that is just going to be in terms of what you can throw at the opposing team. I'm telling you, man, it's a beautiful thing to see when you have the players that can cover as well as like your Xavier Howard or Byron Jones of the world. Even hopefully, Noah Igbenogany, hopefully his learning curve isn't that, his growing pains aren't that steep. Yeah. But Nick Needham, all of a sudden, even if you deploy your top four guys, and again, that will be the approach because that's where the biggest investment was made this offseason. That will be the approach of the 2020 Miami Dolphins is to get all four of these guys, cornerbacks, on the field as much as possible. And all of a sudden, Nick Needham goes from your number one guy last year to your fourth guy or third or fourth guy now. Mm-hmm. I like that matchup. I love it. And then you have a first-round talent like a Noah Igbenogany as potentially your third or fourth guy. I like that matchup, bro. I love it.
So the second team on our list – they've been to 2 Super Bowls with their quarterback, the Seattle Seahawks. Once again, Russell Wilson, a guy who came in relying a lot on improvisation, but as his career's blossomed, he's become way more efficient and way deadlier in the pocket. I mean, I think personally, I think Tyler Lockett is arguably the most underrated receiver in the NFL.
I agree with that.
I'm a huge Tyler Lockett fan. I think
I agree with
he is so deadly. He even as a return man on punts and kicks, he is ridiculous. I think Tyler Lockett runs solid routes. He's got crazy speed. I think
crazy quickness.
Yeah, crazy quickness. It's acceleration, man. He's got soft hands. I love Tyler Lockett. I think they made a great draft pick with DK Metcalf. Kind of reminds me of if people were watching and haven't watched a lot of DK Metcalf, but we're paying attention to the draft this year. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of a more polished version of Denzel Mims. And then they went out and they added Philip Dorsett, the former receiver from New England. Chris Carson has quietly been one of the best running backs in the NFC over the past couple of years. You look at, buddy, how good of a season was Will Dissly having before he got hurt last year. Will Dissly was absolutely murdering it out of the tight end situation. He got hurt. You look at who they drafted. They drafted DJ Dallas to add him to that field. People Hurricane fans might remember DJ Dallas. He got drafted there. They added Carlos Hyde to their backfield. They also went out. They brought.
Did they? Yep. I didn't know that.
And they went out. And they went out and they brought in Greg Olsen. So
exactly, savvy veteran.
Yep.
Savvy veteran. He can still get open too.
Yep.
Can still get open.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna be honest with you, Reason. This is the team that concerns me the most, and here's why. They have their deployment of their wide receiver, and especially if they sign Antonio Brown. That's just going to make things.
Guys, the word is that they are very interested in Antonio Brown.
You have a DK Metcalf. This kid is the prototypical height, weight, speed, vertical threat that you could that teams salivate over potentially finding. Okay, 6'4", 6'3", and some change.
And it came out today too. I hate to cut you off, EM.
Go ahead.
It came out today also. Antonio Brown has been working out with Russell Wilson.
Man.
That came out only a couple hours ago, and if you guys remember, me and EM a couple streams back, I don't know if we mentioned it, but we talked about it privately. The Seahawks have been rumored to be interested in him since the rumors about him going to the Bucs were surfacing. Remember, it was the Bucs were interested, and so were the Seahawks, and now he's actually out there working with Russell Wilson. They add a guy like AB to that room, and they keep him in check. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, even before even if they don't sign Antonio Brown, this is the team I'm most concerned about, because you highlighted Tyler Lockett. Crazy speed, crazy quickness. He's a nightmare for any player singled up trying to cover him. I mean, electric in space, electric in confined areas. He's like a more durable version of Albert Wilson, to be honest with you. Yeah. But DK Metcalf, he's that type of freak athlete that you rarely –
and he can just go get it.
6'4", he's got crazy his ability to high point the football. Very few corners can get up and challenge him in that aspect. He's 220, 225. He's got sub 4.4 speed, 4.3 speed, 4.32, I think it's what he ran at the combine. Crazy athleticism. We don't have anybody that can match up with him from a height, weight, speed perspective. So, and he will be a problem for either one of our two best corners, Byron Jones or Xavier Howard, because of his physicality. Mm-hmm. As good as they are. So I can see how we defend them. He will command maybe not a double team every single play, but a good portions of that game. He will be. I think you will have to. You would have to bring extra. A double team.
You know what I want to add, EM? I don't know if you've seen them, but DK and Russell Wilson have talked about it. EM. I don't know if you saw it, but did you realize they simplified? Like, he was only running one or two different routes.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say
they weren't even opening up the route tree for him, bro. They were just
and that's what I was going to say. This is a kid that had almost 1,000 yards last year, his rookie season, and just based off athleticism, because he was only basically running two routes last year. So another year refining his craft and the more implementation of the route tree in his game, I could easily see a Terrell Owens type of player. I mean, he's that kind of athlete. And we just don't have anybody that can consistently single up with him and just lock him down. I would be shocked if we go into that, we finish that game next year and we're looking at the box score and either Xavier Howard or Byron Jones or whomever has, limited this kid's production that game, because he's just a freak of nature. He just has gifts that, 98% of the people on this earth don't have. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And how do you match up with that? The only way you match, especially if he, he develops that, the more, he implements more of the route tree in his game. So he'll become indefensible at that point. So with that being said, you would have to commit more resources to minimizing his impact on that game. And so if you do that, once you do that, that singles up pretty much everyone else. And then again, that gets me to my next point. If they sign Antonio Brown and he's the player from 3 years ago, that's going to be a major problem. The game for us will have to be one up front, because again, they still have a suspect offensive line. I think we will be able to push that offensive line around and impose our physical impose physicality upon that offensive line because they're one of the weaker units in the NFL.
But they added, you look at who they added, bro. I mean, first of all, Dwayne Brown is a pretty good tackle. Brandon
He's
Shell,
old, though. He's old.
Brandon Shell and BJ Finney are decent. They brought back Mike Petty. They went out and they drafted Damian Lewis out of LSU.
Rookie guy.
No, I get it. But you can see they're starting to add to that offensive line. But bro, I think the one thing that they've been consistent, and again, people really sleep, that they run the football well, bro. Chris Carson, when he's healthy, is a very efficient running back. And even Rashad Penny, when Rashad Penny is healthy, he can run the ball really well. And they've went out and they've added DJ Dallas, great late round draft pick. And, I know Carlos Hyde has been around once or twice here, but he's going into a system that's very friendly to its running backs. So, I think that's going to be a problem too that you're going to have to take into account with their passing account. You're going to have to respect that run. And
I agree.
So again, that's what's going to make it a bit of a tougher battle than a team where you can just shut down, play man, and you're not really worried about them carving you up on the ground, right? So
no, I'm not. I think we would have to, with this team, we would absolutely have to minimize that run game.
Yeah,
because they have because of the physical matchup that DK Metcalf presents. In addition, if they're able to consistently run the football on us, that's a recipe for and I think we're playing in Seattle too. So, well, there won't be fans in the stands, but probably. But yeah, man, but again, I wouldn't have it any other way because that'll let us know exactly where we are in terms of a team. You know what I mean? That San Francisco game, Buffalo game, and this game with Seattle, we will know exactly where we are in terms of the NFL landscape, where we fit. So, but yeah, they're a problem for sure. And if they sign Antonio Brown, man, that is it's difficult. It's going to be tough to stop. But I look at I think we'll be able to, put points up against them. I don't think they have the secondary to really minimize our skill position players to a great degree. I think we'll be able to put points up on them. This game probably will wind up being a shootout, probably because of, especially we're playing in Seattle, but this is the team that concerns me the most.
Mm-hmm. So the team that concerns me the most is the Kansas City Chiefs. I got them number one on the list. You look at, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, guys. You look at, obviously, McCole Hardman. You look at, obviously, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson. Damian Williams is coming back. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They went out and signed DeAndre Washington from Oakland, who's a great catcher of the football out of the backfield. Tight end wise, yeah, they got Travis Kelce, but they also added Ricky Seals-Jones. So you look at the offensive line, what did they do? The offensive line, they just went out and got one of my favorite tackles in this draft. They've already got Eric Fisher, Michael Schwartz. They went out and they drafted Lucas Niang, who, if you guys have been paying attention to us going back to the other platform we were on, I've been high on Lucas Niang for months and months and months. When we did our show with Matt Valdovinos, I gushed over Lucas Niang with Matt. I think Lucas Niang has the potential to be a top 3 tackle in this draft. His only question was durability, but the talent is absolutely off the charts with a guy like Lucas Niang. They also added Yasir Durant out of Missouri too. So, they're beefing up those tackles. They've added to their backfield with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and DeAndre Washington, and they managed to keep their 4 top receiving targets along with Travis Kelce in place, bro. So you add in how good Patrick Mahomes is. He's going to be, people forget he was a little bit. He was banged up for most of that season last year when they won the Super Bowl too, right? He only took a couple weeks to try and recover from that injury. So you're going to have a fully healthy Cam, basically the same receiving core, a pretty much restocked and deadly looking running back room, and some beef added to that offensive line. This passing attack, I think you could be looking at Kansas City, specifically Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes could hover or wrap back around that 45 to 50 touchdowns this year, bro.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a concern. This is definitely a concern. I mean, where do you start? Patrick Mahomes, the most dynamic player in the NFL, arguably the best quarterback. I think it's, him 1A and Russell Wilson 1B. But this is why I think, again, like I said about the Seattle Seahawks, it's that the matchup that DK Metcalf presents to us from a height, weight, speed perspective. No other team has that dimension. Kansas City still primarily beats you with just pure speed. They don't have that physical freak from a height, weight, speed perspective.
Kelsey, basically.
Well, you put a cornerback. I mean, Kelsey's not going to dominate a wide receiver.
That's their big body receiver. If you're looking out of the receivers, they're big body guys. They're tight end. That's what it is.
You put a competent enough corner on Travis Kelce, you can minimize him to a great degree. But all from a receiving course perspective, they don't have that physical freak. They just beat you primarily with speed. So yeah, their problem definitely Tyreek Hill. Nobody runs with him consistently. Nobody in the national. He's the fastest guy in the National Football League. I mean, the kid's speed is just is ridiculous. And so wherever he goes, you would definitely, no matter who you match him up with, it would be, you should definitely err on the side of caution with him and have a safety over the top wherever he lines up on the football field. But with that being said, again, it's kind of like with the Seattle Seahawks. The game will be won up front. If we can consistently push the pocket, minimize their running, and they're not a heavy running team anyway. But definitely, if we can minimize their running game, number one, and then two, you make them one-dimensional, and if we can push, get consistent push on that offensive line and condense that offensive line, and again, keep him confined inside. Will it work? Maybe not, because he's Patrick Mahomes has proven that he can beat you in a multitude of ways, inside the pocket, outside the pocket, improv, within the structure of the offense. So, but you just want to make him as uncomfortable as possible. You're not going to be able to stop this offense. You're not going to be able to shut him down and lock him down. Nobody can. Probably no defense that's ever played the game can. So, but you just want to make him as uncomfortable as possible. And again, I do think up front, I think because they're still, they have a good offensive line, but it's still a more finesse type of offensive line. And I think we have an edge in terms of overall strength in our defensive front. And, I think we will be able to push that offensive line and get consistent push on that line. But you have to contain him because we know how deadly he is when he's on the improvisational end of their offense. And definitely, you don't want him getting outside the pocket and making plays because, again, your coverage, I don't care how good your corners are, it can only hold up for so long. So if a quarterback is able to extend plays for 5, 6, 7 seconds, there's no way any cornerback, Deion Sanders, can't cover for that long. So, again, we're going to have to get consistent push up the middle, especially on the interior with him. This is where Raekwon Davis, I think, will come into play this game, hopefully. And, you get that, you'll be able to condense that pocket on the outside and keep that contained on him. You know what I mean? And, you just hope for the best. But, yeah, I see another shootout because their defense, even though they have, Chris Jones of the world and Danny Clark's of the world, I think their secondary is still suspect. You can make plays on their secondary. I think Devontae Parker is a matchup nightmare for them. I think Albert Wilson will be a problem for them as well. Obviously, Mike Gesicki, they don't have any linebacker. That's the problem with one of the biggest issues with their defense, their lack of speed at the linebacking core. Gesicki is going to be a huge issue for them. I anticipate him being a big issue for them. But with that being said, they
added my boy Willie Gay Jr. out of Mississippi State, the linebacker. So, yeah, but they didn't really upgrade the corner.
He's a speed guy. He's definitely a speed guy, but he's a rookie.
They didn't really upgrade. They got L'Jarius Sneed out of Louisiana Tech, but they didn't really upgrade safety or corner massively at all this offseason.
No. I think we'll be able to make plays consistently at the skill position.
They're hoping Taco Charlton pops off, bro.
Oh, good luck with that one. So, and then again, the loss of Agba, that's going to hurt that pass rush. That's going to hurt that pass rush. So, I think a lot more than what people realize. Again, you're hitching your wagon to Taco Charlton. Well, good luck with that one. So, yeah, man, I think it'll be another shootout. More than likely because of the dominance of Patrick Mahomes. More than likely we'll probably lose this game. But yeah, man, this is historically one of the greatest offenses we've ever seen. So, it's a tough matchup for any defense. The 2000 Baltimore Ravens, your 2012 Denver Broncos, they would have a lot of problems stopping and minimizing this offense. Mm-hmm. So it'll be another shootout, but we just have to, again, somewhat make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable and minimize what they do, the big play, especially the big plays. That's what kills you. You want to make them be methodical in terms of their movement of the football up and down the field. You don't want to give up consistent chunk plays because that just demoralizes your entire team at that point. So if we can do that, we can stay in this game. But again, Patrick Mahomes is just so great. He's just so good, bro, at this point, at this stage of his career, and as well as Russell Wilson. But it's gonna be a very, very difficult matchup for any team.
Agreed. So, guys, we're gonna be back Friday night. I'm gonna let everyone know. I've been talking to Quentin Riddle. Sounds like it's gonna go down around 8:30 Eastern. So 7 p.m., 7:30 Central Time is what it sounds like. He's going to be available for Friday night. We'll go over some news discussion, and then we'll get into the game between EM and Quint. And then on Monday, we're going to be back. And we're going to look at this from the rushing attack perspective. We're going to look at the offenses we think on their schedule this year that are going to pose a challenge to the Dolphins. And then after that, that's going to be the Monday show. And on Wednesday, we're going to look at the other side. We're going to look at what defenses will pose a challenge to the Miami Dolphins in 2020 on their schedule. So it's another little bit of a little mini series we're doing of things here. So stay locked in as always. Guys, smash that like button. Helps us in the algorithm if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. Last I checked, let me double check. We were at only 90 away from 1K. And yeah, we are 90 away from 1K and giving away a Tua jersey to you guys. So yeah, man, subscribe if you haven't, of course, pound the like button because it does help in the algorithm. If you'd like to donate to the channel, paypal.me/Finside. The direct donations, we appreciate any and all donations. They go to helping fund the channel, graphics, StreamYard, et cetera. And then if you want to become – sorry?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Reason.
If you want to become a Finside the NFL patron, there's the link, www.patreon.com/Finside the NFL. And I want to give a shout-out because we officially have two patrons. So I want to shout them out right now. So shout out to Infinite Trauma and Rhino Sith for both becoming patrons tonight. Each of them joined the veteran tier. Shout out to you guys for donating to the channel and becoming the first 2 patrons of this channel and along as we go through this journey. What were you going to say, bro?
I noticed somebody, first off, that's greatly appreciated, fellas. Man, much love to you, much respect to you. Somebody said in a comment that Chris Jones was talking to Le'Veon Bell. I don't know. I think it was Havoc, I think.
I brought up
Havoc,
the picture, bro. I brought up the picture, bro.
Oh, did you? Oh, I wasn't even paying attention. I'm sorry.
I brought it up earlier, bro. He just tagged him and said Le'Veon Bell. He basically just implied that Le'Veon Bell taught him to hold out. I brought it up earlier when we were talking about him on the screen for everyone. Come on, bro.
Sorry, man. I'm sleepy, bro. I'm tired, man. I'm tired.
Bro, I don't want to hear that.
Give me a break. Give me a break, dude. So
yeah.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out again. Y'all already know what it is, fam. All the love, all the support. Again, we can't thank y'all enough for sure.
For sure.
So if we had more time, I would tell Infinite Trauma and Rhino to get their behinds on that stream. To get up on, you would drop that link for them, and they would have, since they're our first 2 Patreons. But we'll address that another day.
As soon as I see them, whenever I see those 2 come backstage, they'll get bumped up front. I think we're a long way away from that day, though. But guys, we're gonna get out of here. We're running out almost 2.5 hours. I hope everyone stays happy, healthy, and blessed up here. We'll be back Friday night. EM Dolphin versus Quint Riddle in the first of an ongoing Friday night special series till the regular season starts.
I don't think he's showing up. I really don't think he's showing up.
Well, I'll have a backup plan in place. Don't you worry. It's EM Dolphin fan for subscribers on Friday. Monday, we'll be back. We'll look at the rushing attacks. That'll pose a challenge to the Dolphins. And then on Wednesday, we'll look at what defense is on the schedule. Will pose a challenge to this Dolphins team in 2020. Until then, guys, y'all already know what it is. Every day, all day.